I developed a way to teach anyone, anywhere, anytime, how to tap into their intuition and then apply it to really any area of life.
Where do you feel like the intuition, because there's a lot of people who say like, where's the source of that? What would you say to that?
Be a pal with your intuition. P stands for pause, A stands for ask, and then the L stands for listen.
Welcome to the Unstoppablepreneur podcast and show here. So I'm super excited to have Shoshanna here. Apparently, we talked right before this, and it sounds like you've been in business for over 20 years, done a ton of stuff with intuition, which I'm really excited to dive into because my dad's what's called a clinical kinesiologist, and I actually love intuitive style training. So I would love to hear a little bit more about like what first got you into intuitive training, because it's not super common. And I would also love to know just what are some of the results that you get people and some of your backstory. So take it away.
Yeah. So when I was 18 and away at college, a friend of mine invited me to a metaphysical bookstore. And prior to that, I had a pretty traditional kind of religious upbringing. So I wasn't very exposed to metaphysical things. And when I walked in there, they kind of just, all these women in their 50s and 60s adopted me. I was away at college without a car and far away from my family. And they taught me how to meditate. They gave me all the like traditional books from the 70s about the spiritual realm and meditation and like transcendental meditation and spirit guides and Edgar Casey, who was a transmedium channeler, all these things. And then I would go back to school where we were having pretty serious conversations about critical thinking, writing, reading, reasoning, like that. And I did my best to try to like, fit these two halves, very, very different kind of thinkings together, and was not terribly successful because they felt very, very separate. And then after college, I went off to participate in transformational, like personal development, professional development work, worked for a company, led programs for them. So that's like kind of got me to this place where I was in a money group, and this woman said, everybody's going to start a business. And that was where I started to wonder, well, and I wonder what kind of business I could start. And one of the, the coach said, what about that thing you do with cards? She was talking about tarot. And I was like, you mean like be a psychic? And she was like, yes, that. So when I started my business, that's what I did first. I would meet people at coffee shops, or I'd go do parties or big metaphysical fairs. And I did readings. And I mean, I did readings for about 3 or 4 years. And what I noticed, again, because I'm of two minds always, that's why it's called Simple Spirit, the name of my business, because I noticed that really smart people made really dumb mistakes. And I was like, why did they do that? And I would say, did you know that was going to happen? Or did you have a feeling that that was going to happen? And most people, probably like 75% would say, yeah, but I didn't trust myself. And now I don't know what to do. And so my readings with them would be how to navigate out of this challenge they created for themselves, not trusting their intuition. So eventually what I realized is, I think I need to help these people learn how to use their intuition. And that kind of led me to where I am now. About 12 years ago, I started training leaders and entrepreneurs how to become intuitive decision makers. So whereas some people have a very spiritual approach to intuition, which is awesome, I don't. I have a very practical kind of mind-based, understanding the mechanics and then, the anatomy of how intuition works. And so I have a system. I trained 11,000 people all over the world how to use their intuition. Some people not business owners, some people not leaders, some people just, regular Joe Schmoes who showed up at events I've led. And all of them have left with the ability to recognize the voice of their intuition, whatever it sounds like. For some people, it's feelings, but for the other 75% of us, it's not that at all. That's not how my intuition works. It actually works inside of being able to see and to hear and to know things, not to feel. And so I developed a way to teach anyone, anywhere, anytime, how to tap into their intuition and then apply it to really any area of life. And so that's how I ended up here.
Where do you feel like the intuition, because there's a lot of people who say like, where's the source of that? What would you say to that?
How our bodies are designed is to scan the environment, right? Like we have all of these, we have mirror neurons in our brain. which allow us to mirror other people. That's like how our brain is designed. We have glial cells, which also the reptilian part of our brain can perceive what's in our environment, even beyond our five physical, being able to see, being able to feel, hear, know, all of those things. So I think it's really how our body is designed. What my personal belief is distinct from what other people's personal belief is. So what I find, and it's why I can work with such a huge variety of people with very diverse kind of either religious or spiritual backgrounds, is it doesn't matter what I believe, it matters what you believe. So I work with clients who believe that it's God talking to them. And whether you believe it's God or angels or people who've passed or that we just have this psychic antenna and we're tapping into the energy around us, whatever you believe, that part's up to you. For me, the mechanism of intuition is an internal one. So I train you how to trust, recognize, and use the internal mechanism. And then what you're listening to, that's kind of on you. Like whatever you believe works great.
That's super cool. And what would you say, like teaching all these people about intuition, what would you say is the most common reason that people don't trust their intuition?
Because we are not trained to be intuitive, meaning trust ourselves. We are trained to become consumers of information and to look for outside of ourselves experts, and then to trust them to tell us what we should do. So there's this really interesting book called, you probably heard of it, Influence, The Psychology of Persuasion by Robert Cialdini. Yeah. And in that book, he, talks about these 8. Now there's actually, I think it's more than that now, because the new book I'm reading right now, the new version has another one, Unity, which is a new one. But basically it talks about how there are these wirings of our brain where we automatically basically trust other people to tell us what actions to take. And so I believe that's the reason why. It's sort of like you're not tired, but your mom or dad says it doesn't matter, it's time to go to bed. You don't feel like sitting still. You actually feel super agitated, but your teacher tells you to sit still because it's class time, right? You feel hungry, but it's not dinner time. It's like on and on and on. You feel like someone doesn't like you, or you sense or perceive they don't like you. You tell someone and they go, you're just being sensitive. And so it's like we're trained to not trust ourselves, because living intuitively, acting intuitively, doing business intuitively, doing relationships intuitively is kind of not civilized, because it feels more primal or basic to a lot of people. So that's why I think we don't trust it. So what I have found is that in training 11,000 people how to recognize, trust, use, apply their intuition to life, is that mostly people, and this is vast majority, probably 70, I don't know, I'm not gonna even try to give it a number because numbers are not my thing, but majority of people, when I tell them that, oh, that thing, that's your intuition, they go, oh, I didn't realize that. I thought that was just random thoughts. Oh, that's my intuition. I thought it was just like, my mind making up pictures. Oh, I thought I was just like, I was really good at reading people's faces. No, you're literally hearing the words they're not saying. Oh, I just thought I felt really uncomfortable. No, that's actually your intuition reading somebody else's discomfort. So, most of us have used our intuition, but we just ignored it because it didn't work in society to fit.
Awesome. So what would you say, like, at its basic level? So as an entrepreneur, let's say somebody is wanting to be an entrepreneur or they're transitioning, how could they start to tap in and recognize their intuition? Like, what are some of the simple things that you could give somebody to be like, hey, if you really want to understand your intuition, like, do this thing?
Yeah. So I like to give an acronym because it's easy to remember. PAL, PAL, be a pal with your intuition. P stands for pause. For the most part, especially when you're starting something new and you're trying to figure something out, we don't pause and get quiet. So it actually makes a difference to have a practice. I'm sure you talk about it with your clients too, which is, how do you get quiet? How do you quiet your mind? How do you open your heart? How do you trust the process? Pause. A stands for ask. For the most part, we don't ask great questions. So if you're an entrepreneur and you want to tap into your intuition, a great question to ask is, where does my business need my attention now? Where can I focus today that will move me forward? What can I let go of that will bring what I want closer? So it's asking the right kinds of questions. And then the L stands for listen. And listen is about understanding how the voice of your intuition works. So there are just 4 other people talk about other ones, but these are the basic four. Some people hear, some people know, some people see, and some people feel. So once you understand which of those four, like if you are someone who feels things, then you need to find tools to help you tune in and feel more. And you need to ask questions that prompt your feeling. And you need to get quiet enough to be able to recognize the feeling in your body separate from your response to external noise or whatever. But that's what I would tell people to do. PAL, pause, ask, and listen.
And yeah, this is awesome. And with those four different types, you said four, right? The
Yeah.
seeing.
Yep.
Could you
Hearing, knowing,
describe
and
a little bit
feeling.
about, like, maybe give an example of each one of those? So let's say
Of
if I'm
course.
a feeler and I ask that
Yep.
question, like I pause, I ask, then the listening, dependent upon the four that you're good at, you'll want to tune into how you recognize it based
Yeah.
on those four ways.
What I would recommend, if you're new to tapping into your intuition, I would use one of my favorite tools. I call it intuitive ideation. So you take a piece of paper, you write the question on the top, and then you're going to ask the question 3 times. So let's say it's, what do I focus on today to move my business forward? Regardless of how you translate, write the question, and then you ask it the first time, and you write down everything that comes, just like it's usually a brain dump. And then you mark on your paper a number 2, ask the question a second time, write down everything you get again, because now your brain's starting to get creative. And then you ask it one more time. That third time, that's your intuition. That will be the least number of things you write down. It's just it's a good tool, because our brain thinks that it's helping us and we think that's our intuition. Whether we ask the question or we get a little bit uncomfortable, sometimes in the beginning, it's really just about having a tool that works with how you work. And that's one of my favorite one. I call it automatic writing or intuitive ideation, journaling. Super
Great.
easy.
That's great. So if somebody had more of a seeing, what would that look like? Like is that like a
So
vision, like
yeah.
they get an idea in their mind?
So if you're a seer and for example, I have a client who's a seer, and she'll sit at her desk, and the question she asks every morning before she starts business is, where does my business need my attention today? And she just sits at her desk, gets quiet, closes her eyes, and then either a picture of a client will come into her mind, a logo of a company that she's working for, or a picture of a solution to something she's been working on. That's how it works for her. She just sees a really clear picture in her mind. And then I have another client who's a knower. And so for her, what she does, similar, she sits down, she has a technology company, and she has like 50 employees. So she'll sit at her desk and she'll go, where in my business do I need to focus my energy today? That's the question she likes to ask. So she asks that question, she gets really quiet, and then she just has this really clear knowing. And the knowing doesn't come as a picture. It would feel like a random thought, except that she knows better. So it's not a random thought. It is a direct knowing of where she should be focused. And then the last thing is you hear. And to me, I'm a little biased because I'm a clairaudient. That's the metaphysical word for it. I hear. So when I ask the question, it's like someone's talking to me. So when I asked that question, as an example, I did that 4 days ago when I did my intuitive business meeting, which I do about once every 2 weeks. I just said, okay, business, where are we going next? And I closed my eyes, I got quiet. And what I heard was focus on workshops. And I was like, okay. So I wrote that down on a piece of paper. And then I said, what does it look like to focus on workshops? Where do I start? And then I did that practice, the automatic writing. And I just kept asking questions until I had a very, very clear image of what the steps were and where to go. And that's how I use it in business.
And a feeler just kind of feels it of like, okay, I feel like this is...
with feelers, and most people have some combination of all four. So, I have 3, some people have 2, but my husband's a feeler, like you are. So what he will often do is he will get really quiet, and he'll have an idea, and he'll just check in. He'll go, is this the place to focus? And he knows what a yes feels like in his body, and he knows what a no feels like in his body. That's called body as a pendulum. So that's the tool that he likes to use.
That's great. No, this is
Yeah,
awesome.
kind of like the kinesiology that you were talking about that your dad does. Yeah.
Very cool. Because I find this happens a lot. Let's say someone has thought they've been following their intuition, but they get burned, and they're like, man, that sucked. Like there was an idea and I felt like this was the right thing, and they go for it, and then they're like, that totally was not it. I find that then it's harder to start to trust yourself again and tune into that intuition. So
Absolutely.
how do you talk to that? Because that happens a lot where people will do something like this and they're like, oh, this is my intuition, but then it totally flops, or maybe it wasn't their intuition, or maybe it was a different source that they got it from and it turned out crappy.
Okay, so I love this question, and this is probably the most common one I get when I'm teaching to a group of leaders or business owners or just starting businesses. When I gave a Google like fireside chat, and this was the common question, like 6 people raised their hand, and when the one person asked, they all put their hand down because everybody had the same question. So here's what happens. Intuition is not linear. So our logic is, so when we have an idea, we assume that means now. We make a lot of assumptions about the timing of the idea we have. We're like, oh, I have it. This is an inspired idea. The muse has visited me, kind of like what Elizabeth Gilbert says in Big Magic. Like, I've been visited by the muse. It's time to act. However, intuition is not linear. So sometimes what is needed is further due diligence, to use a more logical term. You need to tap in a little bit and check in. Is now the time to start this? And I will say I'm a big believer in combining these two parts of ourselves, right? This intuitive, which is about what is possible, and looking into what we don't know. So this is how I define intuition. Intuition is a direct way of knowing or understanding something without any prior experience. Logic, though, is a great way to solve problems, and it's a great way to avoid making mistakes. So you have this really clear, divinely inspired, however you want to say it, moment of like, oh, this is the best idea. Then instead of just immediately acting, pause and bring in your logic and ask some questions. Okay, I have this really great idea. Now I'm going to ask the really great questions like, what market? Who's my avatar? What's the best way to, to share this? Is this a physical product? Is this an in-person thing? Is this an online thing? What is the best way to launch this? When is the best time to launch this? Mostly, we only think on that side, which is like all the logical
Mhm.
aspects of intuition. I mean, the logical aspects of business building and creation. We don't include intuition, but if we can combine that, that is our that's our superpower, is the ability to be guided by and navigate decisions through intuition, and then use our logic to take what we know and what other experts know, right? So like someone who works with you, they have this divine idea, they're inspired, they start their business, and all of a sudden they hit whatever that ceiling is of how much money they can make. And they're like trying to apply their logic to it and being like, I don't understand why this isn't working. My intuition is wrong. But then they find you and you're like, no, 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 it's a block. It's a block to prosperity. Let me help you with that. You align them and all of a sudden they make all this money. It's not logical because that's not where your work works,
Yeah.
right? Same as me, like my work works in the realm of understanding how your intuition works and being guided by it. So what I always tell people is if you're in a hard situation, you're having a challenge, and you ask your intuition, like, do I let this go? Do I hire a lawyer? And your intuition says, hire a lawyer. Don't use your intuition in that moment to like, put the law in your hands. Go hire a lawyer. Like, use your logic to find a great lawyer for the thing you're dealing with. Don't kick that baby out of the bathwater, right? Use all of your gifts.
Yeah. This is awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. I love this. This is super fascinating to me. Very cool. So let's say somebody wanted to learn more and get more intuition. What's the best way that they could follow you or find some cool stuff that you teach?
If people are on LinkedIn, I'm really easy to find. Shoshanna French there. If someone wanted to just like have a little taste of what I offer, I have a quiz on my website called the Intuitive Blueprint. It is the way that your intuition works. It helps you better understand how the mechanics and the anatomy of your intuition work. If you go to my website, simplespirit.com, it's right on the front page. Click on Intuitive Blueprint. You can take the quiz. And then obviously, because I'm a good marketer, if you take the quiz, it sends you an email and then it lets you try I have a library that's online. Everything I've ever taught for the last 20 years is on there. check it out for 10 days and see if it's helpful. So that's how I would recommend. If though one of your listeners is like, no, I kind of want to find out more about what this intuitive training one-on-one is, I recommend that people just book a connection call with me so we can chat about where your business is, what you're wanting to do, what you're finding yourself stuck. Because mostly I find people who work with me and we really produce big results are people who are already successful, but they want to take it to whatever the next level is.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's the website again. Can you repeat that one more time?
Of course. It's Simple Spirit, my business name.com.
Love it. Okay,
Yeah.
simplespirit.com.
.com. Easy peasy.
Okay, yeah, love it. Well, very cool. So let's say you had 1 million people in your audience and you had 30 seconds to deliver like the most important message ever, and you only had 30 seconds and then you never see these people again. What would that message be?
It doesn't matter where you think your intuition comes from. It's a gift we all have. And if you learn to use it, it will guide you in alignment with what your purpose and your truth is. And you can start it immediately.
Boom. Love it. Man, this was great. Thank you so much for sharing all this. And
you're super welcome.
Yeah. Well, any last things you would like to say before we call it a day?
Just a reminder for people that you're probably already using your intuition. So remember that you're not trying to learn something you don't know. You're trying to remember something that you already had. As children, we are very intuitive, very. If we're tired, we go to sleep. Adults, we fight our sleep tooth and nail, right? But children are very, very intuitive. So if you can find your way back to what you already knew and then learn to trust it again, you will be guided. The people that I work with, $1 million, $1 billion founders, the way in which they operate in the world is because they trust their intuition, and things that other people say are impossible, they know that's not true because they trust what their inner knowing is telling them. It's pretty cool.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much. And thanks everybody for hopping on today. Hopefully you can take at least one of these pieces. I know I've got like 10 different ideas about intuition now. So this was awesome. Thank you so much. And everybody have an amazing day. Hey, what's up? I hope you enjoyed this video. And if you would like to learn more about what you just experienced or watched, then in the description, I actually have written a book called The Alignment Effect. And in the book, we go in details of how to align and the power inside of you. So if you'd like to learn how to get results a lot faster and reprogram not just your mind, but your cellular memory, then check out the description and grab that book called Alignment Effect. It will completely alter how you think and live your life. Was it me? No, it was each and every one of you. So we all chose to do that. No one forced you. No one made you. You chose, which is freaking awesome.